right, everybody, good morning, and again, happy Wednesday, and happy December, and Merry Christmas. Just all kinds of wishes pouring out from us to you, and all kinds of news pouring out from the show to you. It's a busy week around here. Everybody running for Attorney General is on. Governor Abbott was just on, and here's an interesting confluence of events, because a gentleman who currently is the director of the General Land Office, but who wants to be Attorney General, is on the phone, and that is George P. Bush. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you. So Governor Abbott was on just a couple of moments ago. Let's talk about your current gig before we talk about the one you're seeking. He mentioned Texas wall construction at a stretch of the state that is in Starr County. This is along a piece of property that is under your land office domain. Tell me about, and you had some words about that this week. Tell me what's going on in terms of Texas wall construction.
Well, knowing that the Biden administration would not defend our borders and protect our national sovereignty, the governor, with his leadership, Texas Facilities Commission, Department of Public Safety, and my agency came together and thoughtfully analyzed border areas that were porous, that have resulted in highly trafficked corridors for drug smuggling and human trafficking. And as it turns out, some of the most highly trafficked areas are right in Starr County in the Rio Grande Valley. The state of Texas, my agency, manages that. We have a lease with a farmer that's raised fruits and vegetables whose crop has been destroyed by the record surge of illegal immigration. So we got to work. And earlier this year, I signed an easement allowing for the Department of Public Safety to begin laying concertina wire along that corridor. It's about a 2-mile stretch that will connect Trump Wall and W Wall. So we're bringing the Trumps and the Bushes together. And we're in the process of selecting a contractor to build permanent wall along this highly trafficked corridor. But, you know, Mark, I'm proud to be one of the first to be a part of the process in building the Texas wall because we are a can-do people, and we're going to solve this problem because the Biden administration is not going to do it for us.
What does the methodology that we've used to bring about this wall construction, how does that inform a possible future of more Texas wall? Because, again, we got to sit through however many stinking years of this administration. So if there's any wall built, we got to do it. What are the lessons learned that how we might see more of this in the coming years?
Well, Texas Facilities Commission is running point on everything from engineering, feasibility to actual selection of the contractors that construct wall. But what I can tell you from our experience on this acreage is that land is by far the most challenging aspect of building wall. And we saw that during the Trump administration days as well. So we are already surveying, and we have already surveyed the north of 200,000 acres of the state acreage at or near border areas that can be helpful to this fight. And part of my lawsuit that I brought against the Biden administration was to compel the expenditure of north of $1 billion to complete the Trump wall. So there's still about additional 300 miles, you could say, of Trump wall that could be completed that we can borrow from engineering and feasibility designs. But land is going to be the hardest part of that. And working with private landowners is going to be a challenge. But as we've seen in the Rio Grande Valley, I mean, close to 40% of all apprehensions of that 2 million figure that you and your listeners hear about almost on a daily basis occurs right in that 3-county area of the Rio Grande Valley. And that's why we're starting in Starr County, because that's one of the 3 and one of the most highly trafficked areas that you'll see.
The website is georgepbush.com, georgepbush.com, the campaign site for Attorney General. So let's talk about that race and getting that gig. And that will involve more interfaces with the Biden administration. If you're Texas AG, what's your thought on the Biden vax mandates and how we navigate, because presuming we'll still have some vestige of COVID stuff in the news whenever we pass through the election season. So what's your thought on what's been in the news so far in terms of the tug of war between our state and the federal government over what vaccine policies ought to be?
Well, I think there's a constitutional argument to say that American citizens should have a right to privacy and making basic healthcare decisions rather than bureaucrats and politicians in Washington, D.C. There's also an economic impact with both of the vaccine mandates that affect both CMS-sponsored healthcare entities in Texas, but also for businesses with over 100 employees. Whether I talk with card distributors here in Texas or healthcare administrators, they all say it's challenging enough to hire people, but with these types of mandates, you will see, and this is the ironically depressing part of these vaccine mandates, a poor healthcare delivery service in Texas. And so we got two great rulings in U.S. federal district courts yesterday, which showed that even federal judges agree with Texas, among other Republican states, that say that individuals should make these choices rather than government compelling businesses and healthcare entities to force vaccine mandates. And so I want to continue that fight. I think this is a very basic healthcare decision. And as the judge wrote eloquently in the Western District of Louisiana yesterday, it's during times of crisis that we have to be even more vigilant of constitutional liberties. And in this case, it's our healthcare and our privacy rights.
The conservative argument for this involves an objection to Joe Biden telling companies in Texas what they can do. Once those companies decide what they want to do, it gets really interesting. And I've been asking everybody, not just in the AG race, but everybody in conservative politics, how we navigate this world where our freedom passions tell us that a company should be able to have whatever policies it wants, but the same freedom passions write a little sentence in our hearts that says that people shouldn't have to get a shot to keep their job. So I'm trying to remember the last time we spoke. You navigated it with some skill, and I had Ava Guzman on yesterday. She flat out said you shouldn't, that a company should not have to make you get the vaccine, even if it wants to. So where are you on that?
No, I would agree. We shouldn't have any kind of vaccine compulsion. I think in our last discussion, I said that businesses, however, do have certain rights in terms of employment. I would be against that policy for businesses in Texas, and I support the governor's executive order that speaks to that. Because I think as a good lawyer, you should also visit with your client and manage expectations. But I do think that we are in very safe ground in challenging the executive order from the Biden administration compelling business. So even if we are able to be successful in the courthouse, businesses will compel vaccine mandates, and we just need good leadership in Austin to continue to fight that as well.
Because what we've had since, because if the governor can have executive orders and we can all stand for whatever we wish, I think that the governor's executive order is lawful. It comes down to sort of what do you think ought to happen? I mean, Southwest and all the airlines still have a vax mandate. Should they just be viewed as rogue scofflaw companies, or do you just kind of have to shrug and say, well, it'll all work out?
No, I think we go to the court and challenge, companies such as that, and continue to defend the governor's executive order on this respect, and shine a light and represent consumers, because people forget the AG is also the chief protector of consumers, and so I would continue that fight against private industry that make these compulsory requirements and finding standing on behalf of these employees. It was interesting, Mark. I was recently with an employer where an HR director was actually asking me, like, how do we provide the religious exemptions? How do we provide folks that have certain opportunity in coming forward with finding the exceptions to the rules? And so that's where an AG can step in, is helping plaintiffs in these cases versus companies that are going to compel this regardless of what Biden says.
Since the name of the game in a primary is, topple the guy who currently has the job, would that be on your criticisms of Ken Paxton that he has not filed suit against Southwest or other airlines for their vax mandates? But because if that's the case, then neither has the governor. So ain't nobody doing that.
Yeah, I mean, finding standing is a challenge, but that's what a good AG does, right? Is whether it was my case on the city of Denton that I brought against the Obama administration, or my Red River case that I brought on the banks of Red River when Obama sought to seize private lands and call into question ownership of state acreage in Walburger County. That's what good lawyers try to do is try to find standing and legal interests on behalf of the state that can be brought. And so, that's tough work. It requires bringing in good, thoughtful leadership and making sure that, you work with the legislature, whether it's the abortion law that's in question before the Supreme Court, or other laws that this administration and its DOJ will automatically bring against Texas, is to make sure that you have that relationship there to not only file suits, but follow through and make sure that you have good legal standing to bring cases.
George P. Bush is here. George P. Bush for Attorney General. The website is georgepbush.com. You mentioned the abortion battle. Texas has the heartbeat law, and Mississippi's law is before oral arguments at the Supreme Court today. What's your thought on their law, our law, and how the horizon stretches out for trying to get to some point of overturning Roe v. Wade? Do you think that Texas and Mississippi, that the Supreme Court will stand by us without necessarily overturning Roe v. Wade, or just what's your crystal ball for the near future of abortion law?
Well, Mark, I think, for a second, we should take a step back and recognize that for 50 years, we've seen millions of abortions conducted in our country, and that this is an opportunity probably once in a lifetime as Americans to overrule one of the worst decided decisions in Supreme Court jurisprudence. And so, I, for one, I'm just very prayerful. I'm very thankful at this moment as the litigants step into that chamber and make their case. I'm really excited about not only our Texas law, which I supported as it passed through the legislative session, but this particular issue that's presented in the Mississippi case. And I have very good feelings. We'll find out in the questioning momentarily. I believe arguments are starting as we speak that will indicate that the court will reassess viability of a fetus in the womb. I believe in life beginning at conception, and a total rethink in terms of how states can design their abortion laws. I'm also very pleased that Texas has passed a trigger, if you will, that says that with a positive decision, whether it's on Texas case or the Mississippi case, that says that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, that we do ban abortions in the state of Texas, which I also support. So I just remain hopeful, prayerful. Arguments be held today. The opinion probably comes in later in the session, sometime early this summer. I'm very optimistic about the standing of the Mississippi law that says that abortions are banned, after 16 weeks, which who knows? For a lot of the observers, they think that is probably the compromise between the Texas and the current standing under Roe v. Wade. But I'm not going to speculate on which one wins out, but I am hopeful with the composition of the court, the arguments that are being laid out, the way that Mississippi has approached the design of their enforceability, which unfortunately during questioning the Texas law was under attack by some of the justices, will end up being a good day for those that have sought to eradicate abortion in their lifetime.
George P. Bush is here. Last thing, since you and I last spoke, the race has changed. Matt Krause comes out to run for Tarrant County DA, where he will be a fantastic choice. And Louis Gohmert comes on the show and says, if I can get $1 million in 10 days, I'm in. And darned if he didn't do it. So what is that? Does that change your race, change your thought? What's your thought on having Louis for company in the primary?
Well, I welcome Louis Gohmert. I think, Mark, this is going to be the most entertaining Texas political race in quite some time. He's going to add a lot of comedic humor, I think, on the campaign trail, and I'm really excited for him to join. I think it shows a building narrative that we need to change the current occupant. We need to hit the reset button after 22 years of being a career politician. And when you listen to Louis' announcement, whether it was on your station or in his general release on social media, he's brought forward a lot of the same criticisms. And we'll have a very healthy debate starting this Friday, actually, with Fort Worth Republican women at a debate forum that will allow me to present my ideas as to what I want to do differently at the Attorney General's office. So I welcome Louis. I want the good Republicans of our great state to be involved in this race. And it's also an opportunity to also follow our border tour, which I'll announce on your show this morning, starting in El Paso next Monday, driving all the way down into Brownsville to explore the porosity of the border, to highlight the honorable work that our law enforcement professionals do, and talk about how we can reverse the dangerous Biden-Harris policies that we've seen these last several months.
Last thing, because I think we just found a room that a lot of people are going to want to be in. What's the Fort Worth Republican Women thing? Who's on the stage with you for that?
So I'm not sure the venue. I heard Ridgely Country Club, I believe, and I believe Eva will be there. Not sure if Louis will be there. Maybe when you talk to Ken, you can ask him when he's going to show up to one of these debate forums.
I will do that.
And, I'm looking forward to it. I love Fort Worth. As you know, I've lived there for many years, and and Republican women are the backbone of the party. So
can I give you a heads up, because this has been a fascinating week, and Ken is on tomorrow and you're here now. Louis was on Monday, Eva yesterday. It was my first opportunity talking to Eva. Wow. She pulled no punches against anybody. Here's the deal, because it's like debate prep. I'm glad to do it for you. Her thing about you was that your law degree is like on the wall. You kind of put that on pause. You haven't really used it. You haven't really been a lawyer in the strictest sense. She will tell you this, I'm guessing, at the Fort Worth Republican Women, to which you will say what?
Well, I'll say that, I've clerked for a federal judge, worked in a large law firm. I've sued on behalf of the state of Texas against the Obama administration, and now in the courthouse against the Biden administration in a case called Bush v. Biden, which I encourage your listeners to Google search. And you'll find that basically I'm compelling the administration under constitutional grounds to spend the money that was appropriated for the Trump wall. So I'm proud of my record, suing on behalf of the state of Texas. I want to bring that to the AG's office. And like I said, looking forward to this healthy, robust discussion on Friday and future visits on this show. This show is becoming the hub of this campaign, so I appreciate you hosting us.
Well, it is my joy, and I'm now at the point where I'm telling everybody, I'm briefing them for debate prep about what everyone else is saying about them. I live to serve. It's the least I could do. The website is georgepbush.com, georgepbush.com. Pleasure to have you, sir. Best to you, best to the family, and I know we'll be talking again soon. And Merry Christmas. If we don't talk again before the holidays, Merry Christmas to you, and thanks as always.
Merry Christmas, Mark. Thanks for having me.